Hello and welcome to HD Philosophy, and this is episode 9 of the Gospel Meditations, where I examine my family's discussion on this week's Sunday service that was entitled When God Writes. So without further ado, 2 Corinthians 3:1 through 5.
Let us go.
Are we beginning to commend ourselves again? Surely we do not need, as some do, letters of recommendation to you or from you, do we? You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts to be known and read by all. And you show that you are a letter of Christ, prepared by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. Such is the confidence that we have through Christ towards God. Not that we are competent of ourselves to claim anything as coming from us. Our competence is from God. Now, there is so much here in this verse, much more than a mere 10 to 15 minutes can really capture. But what my family focused on during our Sunday morning breakfast was Jesus' heart, and specifically the fulfillment that Jesus brings, going beyond the law and showing the heart or love of God. Now, the discussion we had at breakfast was actually a continuation of a discussion my daughter and I had earlier in the week when we discussed what love necessitates. That is to say, what makes love different? Now, the Platonic notion of love or the form of love would be kind of like an abstract truth. That's what Plato believed his forms were, just abstract truths, like mathematical truths that exist out in the world. But see, this is where Plato was mistaken, because something like love, much like justice, has a relationship inherent in the definition. And this is the discussion I had with my daughter when we were discussing love, because love requires not only a relationship, but free will. You cannot manipulate somebody into loving you. You can't force them to love you. I often think back at Aladdin, when Aladdin summons the genie, and the genie's like, I can't make anybody fall in love. And like, even his magic was beyond that limits. Because if you think about it, if he actually forces somebody to love another individual, it's not love. So love requires that freedom of choice. And the relationship that's involved is one where someone freely chooses that love and it's reciprocated by another. So when Jesus Christ comes down to establish the heart that is in law, what he's doing is he's adding something that law in and of itself cannot establish. And this is where in Corinthians it talks about the stone tablet. It's like there's something being fulfilled that the mere law cannot accomplish. And I'm reminded of Augustine, who once said, the more laws you create, the less moral you're allowing your civilians to be. Now think about that. It is sad that nowadays we need a law that forbids us from murdering one another. I mean, what does that say about your people? When something like murdering another has to be written in law. And this is specifically what Augustine was talking about. If I decide not to murder somebody because I'm afraid of the law, am I really being righteous? Am I really being moral? Where's the heart in morality when I'm merely following the stone tablets or the instructions? Because all law inevitably terminates at a gun. If you don't follow the law, well, then you're forced to go to prison. If you choose not to go to prison and you run away, well, then the police officers are going to find you. If you avoid them, eventually they're going to tackle you and force you. All of this, all of law, inevitably terminates in force. But see, the foundation of force is antithetical to love. You can't force that on an individual. I would go even farther to say that while law inevitably relies on certain kinds of ethics and morality, because that is something I do believe, In order to be a moral individual, you need to choose it for the right reasons. This is, again, what Kant, for example, discussed. The only thing he believed that was good without qualification was the good will. You're doing it for the right reasons, because anything else is just good with conditions. Take all the virtues, courage, wisdom, uprightness for the Confucian virtues, and all of them can be tainted if it's done from an evil will. So you need that foundation of the goodwill. You need that foundation of the heart. You need that good intention behind it in order to be moral creatures. So now back to what Jesus established. What he established was the love of God. So we would be righteous and good for the right reasons, to choose to love God. Now think about an individual like God, if we are able to comprehend such a being. If such a being wanted to create a species that loved him, he would have to imbue them with the free will to choose to follow him or not to follow him. That's love right there. As a father, I have the same kind of inherent feeling. I can't force my kids to love me. I have to just be a good individual worthy of that love so that they choose to love me. That's what's necessary right there. That's the fulfillment of Christ. And my daughter, she started talking about, well, how do you know it's God? And in this way, she was just absolutely insightful, because she was like, what she loved about the sermon is how the pastor talked about knowing God by reading the Bible. Like, how else are you going to know God? It's like building a relationship, you know? If my wife texts me, I know by the words that she uses that it's her. If somebody else is texting me and pretending to be my wife, you know, I've been married over 20 years. I will be able to tell given the words that are being used there. But that's only because I've established a relationship with her. And this is what my daughter was bringing out of the service, that the way we come to know God is by reading the Bible. That's how you know what is his voice. But then I did have to warn her, because here in 2 Corinthians, what you have here is something beyond the mere written word. I had to remind her that Jesus didn't write anything down. He came to establish a church. And within Corinthians, you see that what is written is now on our hearts, not on a tablet. We are acting within God's nature because God's nature is good. We're choosing to act from love. We're choosing to act from being moral creatures with that intention to the moral law itself, simply because it's good, simply because it is God. And in that way, it makes it noble. And in that choice, you find love and morality. And finally, the moral law itself. I mean, this was really one of the essential features in turning my attention from mere Greek philosophy to Christian philosophy. Because what Plato and Socrates and Aristotle were seeking, I believe, was fulfilled in Jesus Christ. Because what they were discussing was kind of the law without the heart. Aristotle would call it flourishing or eudaimonia. But how do we know what makes a human being flourish would be good? It might be good for them, but how do we know it's good in and of itself? Only through the Christian concept of reality do you have a supreme principle that we can freely choose, that has a relationship component of love, to choose it for the right reasons. And at the same time, that foundational love, that filial piety from the Confucian view, or that parental aspect, or that philikon law from an Aristotelian standpoint, where when you follow the law, you're actually getting what is best for you. And that's what the pastor focused on this week as well. Because when you follow God's law, you actually become the best of individuals. And this is a discussion I had with the entire family. Because what I find fascinating is how this world right here was almost made with a human mind in mind. Only through reason can we break the chain of cause and effect that allows us to truly be free. To quote Albert Einstein, the only incomprehensible thing about the world is that it should be comprehensible in the first place. Just think about other religions that come to see the outside world as an illusion. And this follows the last line in Corinthians, that our competence comes from God. Our competence of the world is a gift from God, that the world itself is knowable and we can come to know it. That's why some of the earliest scientists were Christian, because through Christ, we can come to know the outside world. We can find God in the world. That certainty and that competence right there. Like I said, just so many different ways we could take today's sermon. But what I really loved is, if we have free will, which is necessary for morality, and here again I'm borrowing from Immanuel Kant, then what does that mean for the moral law? It is that which promotes that kind of autonomy. It's that which promotes that kind of free will. See, this is where Kant gets it wrong. It's not about autonomy, because my own self-governing law is very shallow and actually might lead to my ruin. There's nothing saying that that kind of autonomy is going to lead to good results or following a good or supreme order, but rather it's theonomy. It's following God's laws, given what he has provided us as human beings, the rational capacity to make free decisions.
A round of applause to the fighter wiping the floor with their foes!
This is what it means to live with the abyss.
Thank you for watching HD Philosophy. Like, share, and subscribe.